The Pittsburgh Steelers are overrated. All right. And I'm sick and tired of seeing these analysts chop down on the Steelers and their flaws after hyping and gassing them up prior to the game. All right. Not giving enough credit to the Cleveland Browns for showing up and really playing their best game, even though they were the one that was the most unprepared. And they want to say, oh, the Steelers, they were unprepared, this and that. It's about the Browns showing up and playing better football, okay? You know what I mean? And you got to keep in mind, you want to talk about unprepared. They just played this team last week. So you can't be more prepared, even if you have 3 practices and all that, than when you play the same team you're playing the wild card round just last week. You know? So, if anything, both of these teams were prepared in a sense, but the Steelers were too cocky by words of Juju Smith, ignorantly, bypassing the fact that a team has grown to be better and more competitive. I mean, you ask Lamar Jackson, he'll tell you the Browns gave him a fight of his life during the Monday night game. So, can't really disrespect, your opponent like that, saying the Browns are the Browns. No, they're not. Especially when the last 3 years, there's some close games that they played with the Steelers. And, yeah, this is not the first time that the Browns, just happen to squeak a win out against the Steelers when they've played close games with them. So, you know what I mean? This was a good reality check that the Steelers need. And now, you know what I mean? Juju Smith just pretty much packed his own bags and put the nail in his own tombstone for his Pittsburgh Steeler career, because there's no way he should be back, especially after now I'm seeing Doug Peterson get his ass rightfully so fired from Philadelphia, even though I kind of wish they would have kept him more, because then, you never know, he could have made the Eagles more dysfunctional, and I would have loved to see that. Fuck the Eagles. But anyways, yeah, I think the Steelers are overrated because, you know what I mean, they got to 11-0 just by pure luck, based on the fact that most of the competitions that they played were pretty awful, and they were actually close games. To bring up a few names for you, the Giants, the Bengals, the Cowboys, the Texans. Am I forgetting anybody else? I think even the Jaguars keep a close game with them. I don't know. But either way, they had some trademark wins. I mean, even though I wouldn't consider the Ravens game without Lamar Jackson one of them, they did play him at Baltimore. I still think that they, just like with the Browns at Pittsburgh initially in the regular season, the Steelers got those two teams on a bad day at the worst time possible. And that's why I felt like things went their way. It wasn't two teams playing at their best. It was just kind of like a one-sided thing. But otherwise, I knew right off the bat when my sorry Giants had a chance to close the deal at home versus Pittsburgh on Monday night. That was a red flag for me. Like, the Steelers team is not the same. Because if this was the same Steelers team that I'm used to, I should have seen that game to be a blowout. The Steelers aren't normally generous. Like, they will blow out the competition if they can. And I didn't see that. And especially the fact that Daniel Fluker-Jones, despite the turnovers he had in that game, still had a chance to put his team in for the win. That was very, very shocking. And second point, for once, their biggest weak link on the team is not their secondary, specifically their corners. It was Ben Roethlisberger in his play. To me, he wasn't the same sharp guy that he was, physically at least. Like, his arm throwing, like, power, accuracy wasn't there. And it showed again in the Browns game. And for two options that the Steelers got to do going at this point, because I think the analysts are really overreacting to say that the Steelers need to be in rebuild mode. No, they don't. They just got to continue to do what they do, which is draft well, especially if they can get a couple more corners to really come in and solidify that position for them. They already got two solid safeties, man, and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Terrell Edmonds. But other than that, their corners are suspect, all right? And the fact that your best corner is a 10-year veteran who came from the Cleveland Browns by the name of Joe Hayden, who's really not in his prime time All-Pro, shape that he used to been in, That's definitely a huge, that raises some concerns. So, all that aside, like I said, an interior offensive line, I think they need to fix that, get improved on there. They need to get themselves a Joel Bettino, a Marshall Yanda, a guard who can go in there and make some huge holes for their team. Because James Conner is a capable running back. He's not a scrub. Let's make that clear. The fact that the 32nd, or they were dead last in rushing, was because James Conner was out for almost half of the season. Let's keep that in mind. I would know that because I played fantasy and I had him on my team. But either way, their biggest issue is quarterback, and there's two ways they can go about it. They can go with the short-term solution, which is if Ben wants to come back. It's not about if the Steelers want him to come back. If Ben really wants to come back, he needs to get his out of shape, donut eating, beer chugging ass into the gym. Hell, call James Harrison and get him to be your physical trainer. Get your ass in actual physical shape and stop relying on your arm to carry you out throughout your career like you did when you were younger. And get yourself in the best shape of your life that you've ever been. And if you can look at the other competition in the history, with Peyton Manning lasting as long as he is because he's always quick on his feet, or Tom Brady with his health diet concerns, you know what I mean? Guys like that. Brett Favre, of course, being a tough, gritty son of a gun, who I'm pretty sure Ben can relate to a lot, who, in my opinion, was in a better athletic shape at age 40 with the Minnesota Vikings than Ben is right now at 38 with the Steelers. If Ben can look at those guys and see what they did to make themselves relevant, he can do the same thing for himself. I feel like that's what matters, because they're saying that he's immobile. That to me is crazy, because there was never a time where Ben Roethlisberger and Immobile would get together. As far as I'm concerned, I remember when I was watching him not so long ago, this man would scramble for first down yards. I think everyone remembers that famous first down run he had against Buffalo, at Buffalo. So let's not count on Ben Roethlisberger not having the athletic ability to scramble and run out the pocket. I feel like he's gotten overweight and he needs to chop that fat down. That's the path. That's one path that they could take, which is, like I said, a short-term solution. If Ben really wants to, for one season, go all out and prove your doubters wrong. If he doesn't feel like he's up to that task, it's cool. It's not something he has to force himself to do. But you got to let the Steelers know about that. That's all on Ben, because the Steelers need to make the right decision. And at the end of the day, they got to look out for what the long-term future is. And really, when it comes to the other path, it's right now and it's there for the taking. This golden opportunity, especially if this team is looking to trade their superstar quarterback. Do not let another team get him, Steelers. If you really, really want to have long-term success, they got to call Houston and see how much first-round picks that they got to give to the Texans to get Deshaun Watson on their team. All right. Seeing the rumors about the Miami Dolphins wanting to trade Tua and some picks for Deshaun Watson is going to be the biggest mistake for the Steelers, really. And I think if that trade goes down, the biggest losers are the Steelers. All right, because long-term wise, it's like basically killing two birds with one stone. All right, this isn't going to be like the same situation when Washington traded 3 first-round draft picks up to, I think, the second overall pick with the Rams, when they selected just a college quarterback prospect who was having a hot career, playing for Baylor. And that was RG3. So this isn't like this, where like it's an unproven college quarterback prospect. I don't want to say unproven in college, but has yet to show his worth in the NFL. This is Deshaun Watson, who has licked at least 3 full seasons in the NFL and has shown that he can hang out here and shoot and put up some points and can scramble. I mean, the dude basically, in my opinion, earned really the unofficial carry my team on my back MVP season this year, despite the fact that they had a losing season. This man did everything he could to keep the team in any sort of game. I mean, there's no doubt about that. So the fact that he's a proven commodity, it's worth spelling out 5 years worth of first round draft picks, because going down the road 5 years, you could see your team in the Super Bowl every year, and you're gonna look back and be like, after the 6th year, going to the 6th year, you're gonna be like, oh my goodness, we actually got a first round pick. Interesting, you know what I mean? And you're not gonna feel like the weight of having five first round draft picks, being I guess being gone to waste. You're putting it on a very talented quarterback. So if the Texans are willing to move Deshaun for that, you got to go ahead and call Houston and make that trade happen. That's the long-term solution. And if that goes that way, no doubt Ben's going to have to retire, or potentially maybe if he wants to still play, maybe you trade him to Houston. That's all on Ben, though. You know what I mean? So either way, you force him to retire, or not force him, but you tell him that he's got to retire, or you're going to get traded. It's simple as that. Two options. But that's if, you know what I mean, if Ben doesn't really want to put in the work and really improve his health. Because right now, the Steelers should not take Ben the way he is right now. He needs to prove that he can physically get healthier and quit, like I said, get on a program with getting physically fit and do what he's got to do to be a much more efficient quarterback. Because, your throwing arm and your accuracy isn't going to always be there. If you can't have your full body, being able to help you make those powerful throws. I mean, look at Patrick Mahomes. You can tell he works his overall body out. It doesn't just take your arm to be a great quarterback. You got to also have great feet, great posture with your leg, having great low center gravity to be able to make those sharp shooting throws, especially while those receivers are on the move. All that good stuff. So that's my thing. If Ben isn't ready to do that, then, sayonara, bro. That's it. So that's what the Steelers got to do going forward, man. But I think personally, they're great. Like, either way, you get Deshaun Watson. This team is not, that's it. They're only a Deshaun Watson type of caliber quarterback removed from being Super Bowl contenders every season. You know what I mean? Like, when I look at the roster, they got one of the best front lines, if not the best fronts in the NFL. They got two phenomenal safeties, as long as they're healthy. Like I said, they could boost up their corner position, improve on the interior offensive line. You know what I mean? And really, the receivers, they draft receivers like gold mines, man. So all the way from the days of Hines Ward, the Blacks, to go down to Centennial Holmes and, Mike Wallace, to Antonio Brown, Emmanuel Sanders, Martavius Bryant. And, of course, I think the latest casualty to that group is going to be Juju Smith, who, in my opinion, should not be back with the Steelers. That would be a costly mistake if they ever did decide to bring him back. They don't need him. In my opinion, their top two receivers already is going to be Chase Claypool and Deontay Johnson. Those two, in my opinion, are already better than Juju Smith-Schuster. And James Washington can come in. And if he has to play on the outside, go whoever they want to put in the outside or in the slot. I think Deontay is pretty quick and shifty, so he might be great in the slot. Easily. He can overtake Juju Smith-Schuster. That's it. Like, Juju has no role on the offense anymore with those guys right there. He's just going to be, like I said, a costly mistake to keep on your team, especially when he's kind of the reason why teams have been playing better against your team, because his opinion or whatever is causing them to get fired up, and it fires back on your team. So, that's what matters, man. Like, you can't have that. That being said, everyone says they like Juju Smith-Schuster. Those are the guys that you have to watch out the most for, the ones that are considered likable by everybody, because as soon as that happens, that means they're going to feel like they're perfect to say whatever they want and do whatever they want. But either way, I'm not really here to criticize Juju as a person, but obviously his ignorance and flaws has pretty much been out there in the public, and now he's kind of getting rightfully shamed for it. But the Steelers are not too far off. I think they were overrated for this season because I didn't felt like they had enough power, especially with Ben, and just really their corners not holding up their deal. On the defensive side, to really keep this team as physically, tough as the old Steelers used to been. And, like I said, their safeties are great, but their corners are far from being as good as Deshaun Townsend and, of course, the great Ike Taylor, who played for the Steelers, in the past. So that's the thing that the Steelers got to look at. And I think, I just felt like the other teams were much more powerful and much more younger, much more fresh. And it all starts with the quarterback position. So I think, like I said, I felt like at one point Ben's going to be pretty much done soon. And yeah, there you go. So, but yeah, I think that's what the Steelers got to do. I think going forward, the long-term solution, they got to, before they miss out on this golden opportunity, trade for Deshaun Watson. You don't have to start fresh with a rookie quarterback, go through all that, that hot mess that you have to deal with. You get your quarterback who's already 3-4 seasons in, still young, just about really in his prime, and still in his prime. So you go ahead and capitalize on that. The next 5-6 years, you're going to be grateful that you made that trade, bearing any nasty or horrible injury that happens, man. But that's it. That's all I got to say. Browns, I'm glad you guys won. You beat the Steelers. You overcame, the bullies of the AFC North in your vision. Obviously, you got 2 of them. You overcame 1 of them already. Here's to hoping that the Browns beat the Chiefs by a huge upset, which can be possible given the fact that since they had much less, they had much less talent on their team with their top 3 corners out, top 2 offensive line, man, really pretty much, it would be 1 with Joe Vittino out the game, but also Jack Conklin really being out for the second half, and then they lost a 3rd offensive lineman. But getting those guys back, including their head coach, Kevin Stefanski, if they're going to get Denzel Ward back, but if they can get Greedy Williams back and Kevin Johnson back, they'll be at full strength to play against the Chiefs. It'll be interesting because then the Browns have a recipe that could honestly beat Patrick Mahomes. And it's just like how it is when you play any talented quarterback. If you can play solid defense, and it's shown in history, like the Panthers when they played a close game at Kansas City. You run the ball, you take over time of possession, and you keep the Chiefs off as much as possible, the Browns can pull off an upset. It's all about fundamental football at this point, making the right moves. And it doesn't even have to necessarily be running the ball, but go for the simple passes, whatever the defense is giving you. If you can just take the short passes and then make an easy convertible 3rd down where it was like a 3rd and 4, you could run it or pass it. You know what I mean? That there's so much you can do. At the same time, you could eat up so much clock. And then that gives your defense time to really kind of like catch their breath, be able to be ready, and then give it their 110% every play and not get too tired or burnt out. It's the perfect recipe. So if you can cause the Chiefs to go ahead and kick a field goal on 1 drive, and say that takes about 5 minutes, and then you go ahead and milk out almost the whole quarter on 1 drive, score a touchdown, there you go. Your defense is going to be all catch up and breath and ready to go for another, drive with the Chiefs. It's going to be a phenomenal game to see. So, and then if the Ravens somehow upset the Bills, which, like I said, I think is going to be the best playoff game that we're about to watch so far, then we get another rematch. We potentially get a 3rd AFC North rematch with the Browns playing at Baltimore for the AFC Championship. And I think I would definitely be up for that. But regardless, let's see what happens, man. Yeah, I'm excited. All right, y'all. Stay safe, stay blessed, y'all. Deuces.